So we've got our ball of clay, piece of sponge. I'm going to dampen the wheel head. I don't want loads and loads of water swimming around on the top of it. I've literally just wiped my damp sponge across the top. Now you might have seen people get their balls of clay and throw it from great height. You don't need to do that. You can place it on there and give it a little wiggle, and then more chances are that you're going to get it somewhere in the centre of the wheel, and you'll feel it stick. And that's why we have a little bit of water on there. You can just feel that stick. When we're starting to throw, and progressively, the way you always start to throw is you start fast. So I'm at full speed now. My beard is in my mouth, it's very weird. Oh, I need my wire. That's the other tool I've got, my wire. Because we need to get these pots off the wheel head. It's going to be weird in years to come when I've got this video on the classroom and I'm wearing a face mask, isn't it? So we start fast. So my foot is flat out. If you're not confident with it going flat out straight away, you don't have to do it. But by the time you get a little bit more confident, because as we progress through the throwing stages, the wheel head gets slower and slower and slower. Yeah. So plenty of water. What you might notice is my start.
Screen's gone off.
Should still be recording, the red light's flashing.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you see where my elbows are? They're locked into my legs. Sometimes if you're on a different type of wheel, you can rest your arms on the tray. But these are now your tools. So you've got to keep them rigid. More water again. So I've got my thumbs linked here. And what I'm doing is I'm squeezing the clay and I'm just bringing my hands up slowly off the top. You see the way I've raised that ball of clay up slightly? So it started out as a little round ball. It's now an inch higher. Bit more water. And then with the flat thumb part of my hand, I'm pushing down. And we're doing a couple of things here now. Our the ideal, is that we want the clay to be in the centre of the wheel. So this process is called centering, but we're also wedging the clay again. So we're also preparing the clay to be thrown. So it's another little preparation stage. You always have to centre a ball of clay. Wait, no, you don't actually, but I'm not going to talk about that until next semester. If you're throwing traditionally, you need to centre that ball of clay. So we bring it up. Can't really do that bit with one hand. And you can see where I'm using the fleshy parts of my hands, keeping my arms linked together. Still got the wheel going really tall. Bring it up into a cone shape. I'll try and do this bit one-handed. And then I'm using, can you see the way I'm leaning that over slightly? So if you can see from the side. If I push down on the top then, because I'm still linking my arms, the only place for the clay to go is into the centre of the wheel, if you don't move your hand. If your hand's doing this, the clay is going to do that. If your hand is locked in, the clay has to go down to the centre of the wheel. So I'll show you again. Up into a cone, and then down into a dome. There's a new poem for you all. Up into a cone, down to a dome. I won't tell you what my teacher taught me, because it's very immature. Now, one of the things that you might notice is the way I remove my hands from the work. Very slowly. If you get your ball of clay and you can feel it, and once you've done the cone to a dome a couple of times, you just hold your hands in one place. If you take your hands away quickly, you can knock your ball of clay off centre. You give it a little squeeze as a dome, and then you want to take your hands away as slowly as you can. And that's the same for every process. You'll also notice I haven't stopped the wheel going round yet. try and not stop your wheel. It's okay if you stop it now and walk off and go, you forgot to get water or you need some more water, but try and keep the wheel rotating all the time because you're much less likely to knock the pot off centre. So once you've got your dome, we need to open this form out because at the moment we haven't done any throwing, all we've done is centering. But you can see it's in the centre. One of the good little trick is when you do the last little squeeze, if you shut your eyes, you can actually feel the clay if it's off centre. It's a really good thing to do just before you remove your hands. You can feel if it's off centre. So we need to open the clay up because we can't throw it like that because we want a hollow shape. So more water. I use my index finger. Some people use their thumb. Some people use 2 fingers. We just find the centre again. You can feel when your finger's in the centre. A little bit more water. The best way to recognise if you need more water, if the clay starts to heat up or starts to go a bit gritty and you can feel the grit, then add more water. You want it to be not gallons of water pouring jugs on, but you can actually feel the clay tell you, oh, it's going to stick to my finger, I need to add a little bit of water. Or the other thing to do is just relieve a bit of the pressure and some water will go back underneath your finger. So we go in, but I can feel it starting to grip my finger. Add a little bit more water. I'm still linking my arms and my hands, you know, I've got to keep these still. If I'm going in, my hands are moving all over the place. Likewise, I'm not going to be able to go into the centre of the ball of clay properly. Look at that, I just touch the outside edge. So we go down to, we want roughly 1 centimetre of base. If it's too thin, you're going to have problems. If it's too thick, you'll have problems. But you can turn that off afterwards. If in doubt, get your pin, stick it in, pull it out, and you'll see how thick your base is with the pin. Because as soon as you go back in there, you can fill that little hole in. So we've got our hole in the centre. We now need to open the form up. So it's a simple movement once you've done it 100 times. I'm linking my hands again, my arms are still resting on my knees, my wheel is still spinning quite fast. We go in, touch the base, and then I'm pulling parallel with the wheel head. And I've opened that clay up. You can see it's very gentle movement. I'm not actually using a lot of force there. The most force is when you're doing the centering. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to compress the base. And by just pressing down on the base, a common fault that you get in ceramic is really annoying, this mask. A spiral crack. So you might get a spiral in the bottom of your pot or a little S crack in the bottom. 9 times out of 10 you can stop that by doing a little bit of compression. The other thing that happens is if you leave water in the bottom of your pot, that will also create a spiral crack. So we've opened it up. Now, I generally always throw with a piece of sponge in my hand. It does a couple of things. It keeps my right hand lubricated, so it's less likely to stick to the side of the pot. It also makes me hold the sponge and therefore my fingers aren't flailing around the place. So it actually gives me a more solid tool as such, I suppose. And all we're doing, once we've opened up, and we've got a nice flat base like that, and we've compressed the base, with my sponge, and you don't have to have your hand on the inside, you can do this on the outside, all the pressure is on the outside. And I'm just going to slowly enclose the shape like that. And you'll see me doing this a lot. 2 fingers on one side, I'm just addressing and compressing that rim slightly. Now the reason why I start off throwing with this shape, and most of the pots that I make, unless they're bowls, I will always start my throwing off with this shape. If we keep a conical shape, if we can keep the top circle smaller than the base of the pot, it's going to be a much stronger form until we get to the point where we want to change that. Yeah? So when we come to throwing, I haven't done any throwing yet, all I've done is pushed out from the outside into the inside. We need to make a little sausage of clay at the bottom. So with my right hand, with my hand on my sponge, I'm just going to push underneath. And you see there, I've got a little sausage of clay. Left hand on the inside, right hand on the outside. And now, after I've made that sausage, I'm not doing any more squeezing. I'm keeping my fingers equidistant, yeah? I'm not squeezing anything more. So there's none of that going on. You're just trying to lock your fingers in the same position and you're pulling that coil of clay up the pot. So we do that. And then as you pull off the top of the pot. So if you pretend that your pot is a centimetre taller than it is, then you're less likely to knock the top of the pot and knock it off centre. So then we do the same again, we repeat the process, we go underneath. I do my squeeze at the bottom and then I hold my fingers the same distance apart. And you see I'm pulling up quite slowly. Right, off the top. The reason why you pull up quite slowly is each piece of that clay has got to pass through your fingers. If it doesn't, you'll end up with a spiral going up the outside of your pot, so you've got to put it up. So if you're going really slowly right at the end, you've really got to wait quite a long time. You can see how long it takes for the piece of the wheel to go round, and then you've got to move up like that slowly if the wheel's going that slowly. If it's going faster, obviously you can throw a bit faster. So now I've got a little, I suppose, espresso cup sized vessel. Do one more little pull. Clean the top out. With your sponge, you don't need a sponge on the stick now, but once you get bigger pots you will do. We need to take the water out. Now you'll notice I've still not stopped the wheel. Don't try and get the water out while the pot is still. That's a bit big, that sponge on the stick. We've got to take the pot off. So there's this little skirt of clay here with my paint scraper. It's going to cut underneath. I'm then going to clean the outside of it up. And that's a little cylinder. Now I expect 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of these by the end of today, at least. I'm going to show you again, but much quicker. Okay? Just because it's actually easier to see it more once. Once you've got this, obviously you've got to take it off. Different ways of taking it off. You can put water on the wheel head, put the wire underneath and slide it off onto a bat. The way I like to do it with these smaller things, clean the wheel head. Oh, by the way, this cheese wire is just an old guitar string. Cut underneath, put some water on my rib, then it goes underneath and you can pick it up like that.